In this video, I'm going to quickly talk to you about my Memoir 44 collection, review the system, and talk to you about my thoughts on the game. To make this game even more special, I hand-painted every single miniature in my collection. Now, this looks fantastic when it gets to the tabletop. It really helps with the immersion level, and it ups the notch of how it feels to play the game. I'm going to talk to you about how I painted my Memoir 44 collection while I review and talk to you about the game. My name is Jay, and you are watching Must Contain Minis. I do reviews and showcases of miniatures and related products. So what do I have in my collection? I have 3 different game boards that you could buy. I have the first campaign book, the old Air Pack collection. There's a new one that they've made since. The Memoir 44 Terrain Pack, and the Memoir 44 Pacific Theater expansion sets, and the Memoir 44 Core box set. If you're buying into this game just to play with your friends once in a while, the Memoir 44 Core box is enough. If you love the game and want to get more of it, I would recommend the next purchase for you to be the Terrain Pack, and then the Modern Air Pack. I have the old one. When I open up my Memoir 44 Core box set, this is how my organization looks. I went out and bought a plano box for the miniatures, and I pack everything else in Ziploc bags. In the plano box, I organized all of the game pieces by type. Here are my German and American soldiers. The way that I painted them was I spray painted them all with Krylon Fusion for plastic, satin white, all around the models. I did the bases, I did everything of the model. Reason being was I didn't want any paint to flake off from anywhere, so I just coated the whole thing with the spray paint. After I painted them with the Krylon, I painted them up using craft store paints. Their colors might be a little off from real life, but it's a board game, and that's totally okay. If you're not doing this project on a budget, you might want to look into Army Painter or Vallejo. They have great colors for the period, but I was just using craft store paints when I did this project. And then I finalized the project by painting them with poly shades by Min-Max, and the poly shade that I used to seal these is a walnut or mahogany. Now, when you use poly shade is both a sealer and also a stain, so you get that look, and the miniatures are also sealed. Likewise, I painted up all of the miniatures within the Pacific Theater expansion set for the Japanese. I used 5 colors and the stain for the infantry, and just 1 color in the stain on the tanks. To store them, I just use the packaging that came within the expansion. I will note that sometimes when they've been sitting together for a long period of time, they do have a tendency to stick together a little bit, but I find if I gently pull them apart, they come apart without peeling any of the paint. I'm not sure, I'm guessing that's because of the stain, and maybe heat or something like that, and just sitting for a long period of time. It could also be from the fusion for plastic paint that's on the bottom of every mini, I'm not sure. But just a note there. But I've had this set for years and I haven't had any damage, and it's stayed very robust, even though I just kind of loosely pack them in there. You can see the infantry are just tossed in the bottom. I own the original air pack for Memoir 44. Since then, Days of Wonder has released a new flight pack. The new flight pack has 16 planes as opposed to the 5 in this, but the new flight pack is not pre-painted. I know that the original added a lot to the game. I'm guessing that the new one adds much more or just as much. It does look interesting, and if you are really into Memoir 44, I recommend the Air Pack as one of the products that you buy yourself to add to your experience. So let's go back to the core box. In the core box, you're going to get a scenario book. That scenario book shows you how to set up your map for the game. It also gives you a historical context of how the game played out in real life, and it gives you the conditions of victory, the special rules, and how many cards each side gets. The command cards allow you to take actions, and we can talk a little bit about that later. This is what it looks like when you set up Sword Beach on your tabletop. This is using just the core rule box, there's nothing else here. Rather than focusing on how to play the game, I'm going to go through and show you some eye candy. That round marker there is a victory token. If the allies take over that village, they get to hold that victory token and it counts as points towards their end of the game goals. I feel a little bad for those guns there. They're going to have a lot of might crashing down on them very soon. The German side is heavily fortified, so let's see how this plays out. So you get what are called command cards, and going back and forth, each player takes a turn playing one command card. These command cards limit what you can do. For example, you might be able to take 3 units in the center and do whatever you want with them. You might be able to take 2 or 3 units on the right hand flank and do whatever you want with them. There are also special cards that make it even more interesting what you can do. Neither player knows what the other has for the cards, so there's a lot of luck element here. So with the dice rolls and with the cards, this game is a fair game for masters and beginners alike. Here, a group of American airborne hold a bridge. There is a round token on that bridge. That is a victory point for the Axis player if they can take it over. The German tanks finally eliminated the American paratroopers that were holding that bridge. This is the victory tracker. For every unit that you kill, or every objective that you hold, you add 1 point to your victory track. The first one to a certain number wins the game. You can see here that both sides retreated their understrike units away from the enemy lines. The idea here is to make it so that the opponent does not get points for defeating that unit. That idea didn't work out too well for the Allied player. What ended up happening was the Axis player had a airstrike type card, or basically a card that enabled him to attack a unit pretty much anywhere on the board. Unfortunately for the Allied player, that understrike unit is now gone, and this handed the victory to the German player. The pictures in this video all originate from a photo shoot I did back in 2016 for a written article on must-contain minis. That is my website with over 700 articles about miniatures gaming. I will be linking back to the original story that you see here in the description below. For anyone that has friends or family that aren't too much into miniature wargaming, but you want to get them involved, or at least play a game that kind of feels like you're playing with miniatures, I highly recommend Memoir 44. It is an excellent game. Thank you for joining me in this video slideshow showcasing Memoir 44. If you like the content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, happy gaming everyone!